Well, welcome. Today, Moon Letters. We're going to be talking with Moon Letters. They are a Seattle band, a Seattle-based progressive rock band. And I reviewed their last album and debut, Until They Feel the Sun. And I'm telling you, it was like hearing Genesis for the first time again. I like their music so much that I need to go and see them live. And so I did. Went to see them over in West Seattle. I met Michael True and the band and enjoyed the band playing most of that debut album. Uh, the album is based on a wonderful story, and I want them to tell you about that story in the interview today. So without further ado, welcome Moon Letters to progressiverockcentral.com. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to answer some questions today. And they're in the midst of recording a new album, or they're going to tell us more about that in a minute. But I'll let each of you introduce yourselves and tell us which instruments you play. And thank you. Who wants to start?
I'll start things off. Hi, my name is Mike. I play bass in the band and do some backing vocals here and there.
And now percussion.
Yeah, temple blocks.
And various percussion, yes.
Ding dong instruments that go ting ting dong dong.
Who'd like to go next?
I'm Kelly. I play drums. And that's all I do.
But he does it well. I've seen it.
I'm John. I play all things keys and I sing some backup here and there.
Tony Banks Jr. I mean, he really sounds great.
My name's Michael. I do vocals in the group.
Yep. He's
Dave, guitar.
swordsman. We'll talk about that later, if you want. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave.
Oh, guitar.
I think we got everyone. All right. Before we discuss a new album and a possible tour, let's step back just for a minute and talk about Until They Feel the Sun. The album was received very well, as witnessed by the fact that you guys are invited to Rozfest until COVID reared its ugly head. DPR loves you. DPRP, I should say, the Dutch Progressive Rock page, they love you. The Prog Magazine out of the UK, they love you. And how, I mean, I'd say those are pretty high marks right from there. But you guys tell me, how was the album received nationally and internationally?
Well, it's funny to think about that in this day and age. Like, a lot of the outreach that we did for the album was online, so it was a lot of people just like you that had their own site with their own followers that help us spread the word about it. And so it was very interesting to connect with somebody in Japan or people in the Netherlands or Germany, and suddenly you have this little bit of a fan base in this part of the world, and you never knew it was going to happen week by week as the album came out, as these reviews came out about it. So I feel like it's still like, it's hard to say. It's something I don't completely understand. So
I think it's pretty cool that we can do it all without a record label too. That just through Michael's efforts of really networking and contacting people, and then a few wonderful people like yourself, Mark, who spread the word a little bit, and then somebody reads about it or hears about it on this little forum or this thing, and because it's so accessible, you know, with how easy it is to find music online, that it can spread into places that we probably never would have been able to, you know, get the music heard as just a little independent band in the past.
As to how well we were accepted, we got quite a few reviews on it, and I don't think I read any of them that were purely negative, which is, I think, a good thing. There were some comments here and there, but yeah, I think that was, so that's one measurement. But and then the number of streams we get, we can kind of see that. There's a little bit of metrics of that, but it's kind of hard to tell.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
I'll just stick to playing drums. Show me where the stage is.
There you go. All right, who would like to tell a story or the concept behind the debut album? It's a wonderful story, and go ahead.
I think
Anybody?
Michael undersold himself as the lead singer or singer guy only.
Yeah.
So I think he should maybe tell his.
Oh,
view.
yeah, I also write lyrics. for
Well,
the songs. I would say that there is sort of a story in the lyrics of the first album, but also it's a little bit surreal of a story, and it's kind of like based around mythology. So there's a lot of myths about the Selkies, or about the, different things where people end up in the bottom of the ocean and falling in love with mythical creatures. So I feel like I'm not really explaining it too well, because I feel like it's something I don't completely understand, and that's what drew me to it, is that sort of the unknown quality of mythology. And I feel like that gave a little background something into all of the songs on that record.
Anyone want to add anything else to that?
And then we found a real life Selkie and put her on the cover. Pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
that cover is awesome. Yeah. It definitely, if you're looking at her like I used to, and I guess there's not that many of them anymore, but if you walk by a record store and you see that, you're going to immediately say, what's this all about? It's eye catching.
Yeah, I used to shop by album cover all the time. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, I think the story, I mean, I guess I see it a little different, even though I didn't write any of the lyrics. I mean, I think the story, if you listen to it, you can sort of make your own connections if you listen to the lyrics between the songs and the whole overall storyline. So I appreciate like how Michael's presenting it, but I don't know, I guess that's the cool thing about it, right? Is you can, as a listener, sort of interpret how you think the story goes. And I feel like there's enough there to draw on that it's very interesting, and you can ponder what exactly is going on. I like to think maybe Michael has more concrete things going on in his head, and it just, or he says they're abstractions and they come out sort of concrete. I don't know. That's what's great about his lyrics. They're really enchanting.
Yeah, and I think like any great mythology, while there is a story that involves mythical creatures and characters, I think that the underlying themes are really what drive it. And I think that there's some strong themes that drive the record, the story of the record. So themes like obsession and hope, and that's the kind of thing I think about when I think about the record as a whole.
There's some love and lust in there too, I think.
Yeah.
Jealousy.
Yeah, I would say maybe the main theme that I felt throughout it had a lot to do with identity, because it's kind of like one person who thinks they're one thing, and they think they're another thing, and then they think they want to go back to being the other thing, and what everybody else thinks they are at the same time. So anyways. Ooh.
No, everything's good.
Somebody at the piano.
That was me.
Anyone else want to comment on that? I guess not. All right. Well, my favorite song on the album was Sunset on the tell us about the origins of that epic closer. It's a beautiful song.
So that song, I guess, started with I kind of wrote something on acoustic piano, and then I wanted a flute part along with it and the lyric, and it kind of comprised some of the musical motifs of some other songs in the record, and that sort of just kicked it off, because I remember at one point I thought, well, here's like a 4-minute song, but it needs something more, and then I forget who. Maybe I think Dave or John wrote another big section, and then another guy wrote another big section, and it was awesome kind of to step back after a couple months and see where the full piece had sort of arrived at.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was actually the most collaborative piece on the record as far as contributions from every band member writing. I remember one of our very first shows, we performed it, but it was really just a Michael's piano and some vocals, and then a reprisal of Scar Bray, and that was it. And then we didn't play it again and didn't work on it for a very long time. I think it was the last song we actually eventually came back and wrote and put together. And yeah, there was huge sections written by John and Dave, and obviously Michael. And I think lyrically, it's my favorite piece. I think the lyrics of that song really are powerful, and yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I thought that was an all day song.
Yeah, I know. I just that one section that you sometimes like. Where did the galloping section come from? I think it just came out of rehearsal, or did someone have that piece written right after Scar Bray, where it's like da, 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 the sunset gallop. Anyway.
Oh,
That was true.
I think I just wanted to sound like Led Zeppelin.
That was true special. I remember I kept speeding that part up, and you're like, "No, play it like Led Zeppelin would." And I was like, "They speed up."
And then I put a Tony Banks keyboard part or piano part over the top of it, which kind of, but it was something like a Western before that, a little bit to me.
Good.
I like how your keyboard in the end, or somewhere in the song, it's one part that flows over like 3 different sections, like just so smooth and so nice. Anyway, I've listened to that song like 1,000 times.
Me too. It's a beauty. Anyone else? All right, but it's actually on the shoreline that the magic really begins. I hear so much influence from Peter Gabriel era Genesis. Am I very wrong? Pun intended.
Oh, yeah, that's probably my fault. I think I remember I composed the basis of what ended up being that song, like when I was like in college or something. Do you ever have something you write super long time ago and then you don't use it for anything, and then you're like, oh, let's try it out in this band, see what happens. And of course, that's another one that really graduated into a whole new thing once everybody wrote their parts. And,
Lucky Men is a good example. One of my favorite singers wrote that when he was in high school, and pulled it back to make a monster out of it with the rest of the LP. Yeah.
I think influence-wise, it's interesting because, you know, in reading a lot of reviews of the record, a lot of reviewers really want to peg, you know, oh, clear influences here, clear influences here, and sometimes it's on the mark. Like I think, you know, early Gabriel Genesis, I know that a lot of us are really into that. But I think one of the greatest things about this record is just how diverse the music that we all listen to is, and it's, you know, it's kind of all over the map, from much heavier stuff in the metal genre into like the hip hop genre and kind of everything in between. So, you know, I think we're a pretty traditional sounding, traditional ish sounding prog band, but I actually think that our influences are way wider than the traditional prog bands that a lot of people assume that we're pulling from.
I think we're going to see that on the second album, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Anything else on that?
We made a video for that song, and the tinfoil, I believe, is still hanging up in John's basement.
Oh, you can see it there?
Actually, you could kind of see it where the sun's poking through it. It's getting kind of ratty at this point.
Here it is. Wow.
Zoom in on that, eh?
Okay.
Put a light on it. Light it up.
Well, I don't know if he remembers, but I mentioned to Michael that you guys should learn Am I Very Wrong, or one of Genesis early songs off of From Genesis to Revelation to play at Rosfest. And that whole thing, it's really a shame about COVID, because you guys would have been fantastic there. But has anyone else heard that album? I mean, I know you've heard some of the classics, but that one, at one time, people were picking it up back in the 60s and thinking it was like a religious album. And I think it even got misplaced. I heard a story where it got misplaced and placed in the spiritual or gospel section. But have any of you guys ever heard that?
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure, yeah. When I got into Genesis for the first time, it was going through my dad's records, and weirdly enough, the first album I listened to was Lamb Lies Down, which I think is a pretty weird intro to early Genesis. Weird transition period, right? And then I just worked my way backwards, and yeah, I love that record. I don't listen to it as much as some of the others, but it's a great record through and through.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a Simon and Garfunkel influence too, which is, I mean, it's just, anyway.
Yeah, I read something where at the time Peter Gabriel was trying to sound like the guys in the Bee Gees.
Yeah,
Because they were very famous English sort of folk balladeers at the time, which is just kind of funny because when you think about Peter Gabriel, it's more about like how weird he does everything, So.
yeah. All right. Well, if there's no more on that, then let's definitely get into the new album. Can anyone give us a title or release date, and how many tracks?
7 tracks.
Oh, really?
So they're
Think so.
probably going to be long. Good.
Yeah. I think the idea was to hopefully fit it onto a vinyl record. So that was part of the consideration of maybe making a 40-minute long album as opposed to like 50 or 55 minutes, which is kind of common for like a CD release. I don't know if we have a estimated release date right now.
Spring, summer, fall.
Just depends on how long I think we were going to try to wait for vinyl, and yeah, I think they're still printing like 500,000 Adele records,
Mhm.
so who knows how long that'll take.
Yeah.
So
So
But-
it might, I don't know, it might end up being kind of like a staggered release, depending on if it takes a really, really long time to produce and get vinyl to people. So,
But you've got everything done as far as the recording.
pretty close.
Okay.
Close, yeah.
Can you share a title or?
Oh, the
Yep.
song titles?
Or the album, either way.
Oh, the title. Should we give away the title, guys?
ask our manager. Who's the manager of the band? Dave?
We gotta call Sharon Osbourne, make sure we can
Okay.
get that.
Uh,
Just giving you the opportunity. All right.
Sure.
And is it,
I think we'll wait till everything's feeling a little more fully baked, and then
sure, sure.
we'll very
Is it
excitedly announce it
is
all.
it a concept album or
Not particularly, no.
so just individual songs that take their own direction? Okay.
And I actually think that was kind of a fun thing about writing this record is the first one, you know, there was this, how does everything flow and how does the story go and all that stuff. And this time, I think we just had an opportunity to really write songs that can stand, you know, on their own. Not that necessarily anything from the first record can't stand on its own, but, you know, I mean, it's not necessarily need to be connected to the whole, which is a very different writing process. And I think it was enjoyable to work on. I think the material is much more diverse because of that, which is neat. I think song to song is very, it sounds much different song to song than the first record did.
How would you compare it to any other music out there, or is it similar in nature to the last one, or a complete change? Or
I would say that it has some relation to the first album. There's a couple of songs actually that were written towards the end or right when we finished the first album that have some carryover that kind of have a similar feel. I say maybe two of the songs, and then after that they're pretty different. But then it's us, so we produce not something. It'd be hard for us to do something completely different unless we just changed our instruments or something. But even then, our melodies and things are us. So I feel like you'll recognize Moonletters in there for sure.
I think we had songs where the bulk of the music was written by maybe different members than the last album. So we have bigger contributions compositionally from John and Mike this time, which is really exciting. So you get to hear some different kind of colors on the palette that take us into different directions and maybe even kind of sound like different eras of music, maybe a little more futuristic, if I might say so, in a few spots, which is really fun to bring that in.
excellent.
Yeah, I think one of the things I like about working with this band so much is that there's whoever puts a demo forth, whether it's Michael or Dave or me or John or Kelly or anybody, it kind of goes through a process where it might start off where you couldn't imagine us playing it. I feel like we've had a couple of moments where somebody brings a demo to the table and kind of, it doesn't sound like us at all. This is not us. And by the time we're done actually workshopping it, it's like, yeah, it sounds like us again, because as John said, it's us. We're playing our instruments. We have our styles, and we end up sounding like Moonletters, I think, at the end of the day, which is great.
That's what we want, more of that. One last thing, how about a tour? Any plans for that, or for this year, or is that another year out? Either here in the US or internationally?
Yes, please.
I think we're
I
all
don't know.
dying.
I don't know of any plans, but we would like to.
It's obviously really hard to plan in, right now. I think we're all just dying to play a few more shows. But it's been hard, as you know, and it's hard to say right now. I think we'd all like to go on a tour, even if it was just something local, but.
And you guys, I missed that show where you debuted some of the new stuff. How did it go over with the audience?
Seemed really well.
Yeah, that show was cool. The Heron's Nest, that place is sweet. I support those people. So I bought a t-shirt. I bought two of them actually.
Oh,
Good
Ooh,
job.
yeah. I should have wore it.
Well, the only other thing I was going to say, is there anything else I missed that you guys want to talk about? And oh yeah, I almost forgot one question. Has Rozfest contacted you yet about maybe next year, and then if not, I hope CProg does, because CProg would be fantastic for you too.
yeah. So I don't know if you're aware, Ozfest went under a big change.
Yeah.
So the guy that the founder that had booked us for it
Sure. Yeah.
decided to step away from it, and everybody thought it was just kaput, and then a whole other group of people step up to the plate to do it, and so it's kind of, I don't know, it's been a little ambiguous throughout the pandemic and throughout, does that festival exist anymore? Now it does. So I'm just not exactly sure what it'll be like. You know, maybe we'll get to talk to them again soon in the future. So
Hopefully. Yeah. I
Um,
think you guys would make a great entrance.
yeah, and I don't know if CProg has plans for doing the festival this year or not. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that.
I think they're talking about next year, but
Yeah.
but I hope you guys are invited because I don't know who else they would. I mean, you're number one right now.
Yeah, I gotta play that for the 7th time.
You have
My
to,
record of playing it every year is
You've actually played there more times than the number of festivals they've had.
yeah. That's it. How many they had?
No, he's been at every one, I think.
I'm ready to play it again.
definitely. Well, is there anything else that I missed that you guys would like to talk about?
We got a killer bass tone on the new album.
Hmm.
All right.
And that's it. Everything else sounds awful. It's unfortunate.
All our money went into that. Yep.
The
But
weather,
all the bass.
the weather out here is surprisingly sunny. I think these guys all want to get out in it. Hey guys, thank you very much, Moonlighters, for giving me the time to talk about the past and the future for Progressive Rock Central. We wish you all the best and know you're going to do well. And again, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure
Mark.
talking to you.
All right, hold on. I'm just going to stop